Does the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment apply only to the federal government, or does it extend to the states? Does it require excluding religious programs and entities from public services? In 1947, as America emerged from World War II, the Supreme Court confronted these questions. Everson v. Board of Education marks the court's first serious attempt to interpret the Establishment Clause, and it remains an important decision to this day. New Jersey law allowed local school boards to reimburse parents for the costs of bus fares they paid for their kids to travel back and forth to public or private schools, including religious schools. The money came from state tax revenues. A taxpayer, Arch Everson, objected to the use of public funds to pay the bus fares of kids attending religious schools. He argued that New Jersey was spending taxpayers' money to support religious schools in violation of the First Amendment, which prohibits laws respecting an establishment of religion. Although by its terms the clause applies only to the federal government, Everson maintained that the 14th Amendment had incorporated the clause against the states as well. In a landmark 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court upheld the New Jersey law. Justice Hugo Black's majority opinion became an influential statement on the meaning of the Establishment Clause, though his opinion contains conflicting ideas, and subsequent cases have not always adhered to the views he expressed. Justice Black wrote that the Establishment Clause erected, quote, a wall of separation between church and state. He was quoting Thomas Jefferson, whom the justices had quoted on this subject before, in Reynolds v. United States, a case we cover in another video in this series. On this separationist view, New Jersey could not spend tax money to support religion. On the other hand, according to Black, the clause did not mandate hostility to religion. Rather, it required the state to remain neutral, to treat religion equally with non-religion. On this neutrality view, New Jersey had simply allowed religious believers to participate equally in a public program. Just as the Constitution would not prohibit extending police and fire protection to schools simply because the schools were religious, it didn't prohibit reimbursing bus fares for kids simply because their parents chose to send them to religious schools. Everson is a landmark case for 3 reasons. First, the court did agree with Mr. Everson about incorporation, holding for the first time that the Establishment Clause applies to state governments. Some contest this view on historical grounds, but the court hasn't questioned incorporation since Everson and is unlikely to do so. Second, Everson introduces the competing themes of separationism and neutrality under the Establishment Clause, both of which have remained important in subsequent cases. The court has gone back and forth between these two views, but it leans towards neutrality nowadays. In recent cases, the court has held that a state cannot deny religious schools the chance to participate in public funding programs simply because they're religious. Third, the case highlights the element of individual choice. In Everson, tax money supported religious schools only indirectly, because some parents freely chose to send their kids to religious schools. The idea that the Establishment Clause allows religious schools to benefit indirectly from public support through the free choice of individuals remains important. Everson is a cornerstone of American constitutional law. As Americans continue to debate school choice and religious freedom, the clash between separationism and neutrality echoes in our law and shapes our understanding of the First Amendment.